That was the drum solo. And welcome to In the Court of the Wenton King, because we're doing more Guns N' Roses.
GNR.
And this is Use Your Illusion. So we decided, I know what's a good idea. Let's just do both of them with one review. What could be wrong with that? We have to listen to 140 minutes of this. So yeah, after the stopgap, they had a stopgap. They had time to recharge. I think they had a whole year off, actually, amazingly. You know, time to recharge, time to write more material. So technically, this is the difficult second album. And the question is, would they be able to get it together enough? You know, they're druggy and whatever they are. Are they organised enough really to write enough material for a whole album after, you know, Lies, which is bits and pieces? Yes. They did write enough material. They just dumped all the material on two 70-minute albums. Epic magnum opus, Skyly. So what's the outcome of that? Well, there are some excellent tracks. You know, and those that you'd probably be very cynical about, something like Guns N' Roses. There are some really good songs on here. You know, suspend your preconceived notions. There are some really good songs in here. There's some real mediocrity. And some surprisingly excellent cover versions. New boring metal drummer. Exactly right. You know, I soon realised the idea of reviewing both albums, what that meant. I have to listen to a long time.
It's going to be an epic video review.
Yeah, so yeah. Some of it's good, some of it isn't.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Guns N' Roses, you know, I put them to bed quite a long time ago. I just kind of came to the conclusion, yeah, they're a bit of a sellout band. I was led astray into thinking they were good. Actually, they're just a pop band with carefully crafted image and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, after we did Lies last week, I was kind of excited to see what I would find. Because it's been years since I've listened to this. So, I mean, we're talking 98 sort of time. 1998 is probably
a lot more recent than me, though.
Yeah, last time I listened to this. And I was quite excited, actually, to see if the songs that I thought were good were still good.
Yeah.
And wasn't, you know, just the haze of all the bullshit. And you're right, there's some really good stuff in it. And I've actually reappraised my sort of... Especially Axl, you know, I just thought Axl's is this dick.
Yeah.
Dick. Horrible front man, control freak, argumentative. You know, the story of when James Hetfield had his face melted because Axl couldn't be asked to go out on stage because his throat was a bit...
Yeah,
you know,
he said, oh, well, I'm drinking and smoking, I'm a problem in the voice, sorry.
I'm not going out.
Thousands of people.
But I've actually sort of reappraised things a little bit because... There is some good stuff on it, and it's not the covers, you know. The covers are... Initially I thought, well, I know what the covers are on there, because they needed some singles. You know, things that people, non-Guns N' Roses fans will like. You know, but that's not actually that true, because some of the most famous tracks aren't the covers.
Well, you look at it that way, you know. I mean, those covers, they're not, you know, lightweight songs, are they? You know, and it's not like they stand out that much.
No.
You know, and that's really saying something, isn't it?
And there's some really big, interesting songs. There is some mediocrity. I mean, there are sort of songs that, because they're so long, I think we've talked about this before, 90s albums, they change the way you listen to music, so in a sense you don't listen to an album.
Yeah.
You sort of pick your way through an album, you find a song that you like and you listen to that, and then that sort of moves you through the album, so you look for something else saying, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And
there is no journey, there is no
it's just sort
whole
of...
piece. Whole load of material to
you kind of pick your way through it. Eventually you get through it all, which, you know, I'm fairly at the moment. Interestingly, a normal album, you know, I normally listen to an album when I go out for a walk in the afternoon, and I can listen to an album and then that comes to an end, and I can listen to part of another album, so normally I can listen to Supper's Ready, and then by that time I'm back to the car and I can go home. This one, you know,
that's not happening, is it?
Use Your Illusion 2, First track of it, Civil War had finished. I started playing a song, went on my walk with the dog, got to where I was going, turned around, come back, and by the time I got back to the car, you know, my world hadn't even started. It is just ridiculously long. Ridiculously long.
I put 2 on first by mistake. I'm not quite sure how I managed to do that, but by mistake. And Civil War came on, I thought, bloody hell. Now, my expectation was very much, well, you know, Appetite's going to be the best one. And I actually thought Lies would be like, ooh. And that came on, and I thought, oh, bloody hell, this is better than I remember it. You know, it's a really good song, this Civil War. You know, straight ahead rock song, not 90s, not 80s, just a rock song. That's a real highlight though. And after that, the rest of them. So, you know, when it's good, it's really good. These are really good songs. When it's not, you know, a lot of skipping. I haven't sat through all of it in one go without skipping and then having to go back and, you know, is that the nature of double albums? But then again, double albums, you know, you could compare it to the White Album. That's the same kind of thing where people complain about but this is two 70-minute albums. One of these is almost as long as the White Album. Is the point the breadth of the material? But I mean, normally with the double album, it's about the diversity, and there isn't enough diversity. You know, they have branched out more than like Appetite. It's actually the bits that aren't like Appetite are the better bits. The Appetite stuff is kind of bland. I mean, remember, I'm not a fan of the White Album. I'm one of these people who are a bit about it. And it's possible, did they have a really creative period where they came up with loads of stuff, or did they lose the ability to have quality control and just had to put everything out, which is what happened with the White Album. Maybe that's part of Axl becoming a problem. This is all my work! Some of it is from the Appetite era, and it's not what you'd think. It's Live and Let Die, and it's November Rain, and a couple of the other songs sung by other members of the band. So the reason for not including those before are interesting, and I think it's stylistic, not a quality thing. Why is November Rain not on Appetite? Probably not cool enough to power ballad and not down with the kids rock.
See, that's that's one of the most famous songs
they ever did.
Yeah, they ever did.
Yeah,
that's the one I skipped. That's the only track I skipped. I listened to them all twice. I managed to get through both albums twice,
right.
And the only one I skipped was November Rain.
The thing about that is I'm not going to have heard it as anything like as much as you. I've probably heard it twice. I was like, all the way through. Maybe I'd only heard it all the way through once. You know, it is very long. I wonder if maybe we've attracted Guns N' Roses fans all thinking, oh, you can't take long songs. I'm just talking about Supper's Ready.
Topographic oceans.
Yeah. Shush. And even the length and number of notes is more. There's a lot of verses in November Rain. It's not verse, but it is really good. The guitar bits are fantastic, and Slash is so important to that.
I assumed I would, I thought I'm going to listen to this now, and the one thing I'm going to get tired of is those Slash solos, because they're all sort of sustainy. And
they all sound the same.
Yeah. But I didn't, you don't.
Because he's great.
Yeah. He's really good at what he does.
He's naturalistic, and obviously it means it all sounds the same, but it's great. Yeah. Dirty fingernails, and inaccurate, and he'll play a bit, and then they're supposed to play it again, but it'll be slightly different. And it's just what he's playing, it's what he's feeling, man. It's, to be able to do that in like 1991 is defiant. Genuinely defiant, unlike Nirvana or whatever, who aren't defiant at all, they're just corporate. That is genuinely defiant to say, no, I'm not going to make it perfect and boring, I'm just going to play it, fuck off. And it sounds great. And I think the strings, made me think of ELO. He's a fan of ELO. He tried to get Jeff Lynne to produce this, and Jeff Lynne didn't want to do it. And the final, what do you call it, the coda, the doon, 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 doon. I was trying to think what it made me think of, the ascending chord progression. Very light prog, or I don't know what you'd call it, very 70s rock, I suppose. And the way that fits on to the rest of the song is brilliant. He's brilliant. But it's one of those things where you've got to get through the whole song before you get to the denouement kind of, and it's a long time.
They're I thought they were quite good at using the studio. Yeah, so there are songs like Double Talkin' Jive, which is a pretty average song.
Yeah.
And then they stick that little flamenco-y guitar bit on the end. It actually lifts the whole song and becomes sort of like a memorable part of the album.
Yeah, because it sounds different.
Yeah.
Bit of different texture. Yeah.
And they're very good at there's a bit at the end of Breakdown. Mm-hmm. Now I really like Breakdown. That was like one of my favourite songs in the albums.
Yeah.
And as I was listening to it, I was thinking, well, why did I sort of like this so much? And then at the end, it comes in that little speaky bit, the last American hero, and that is absolutely fantastic. Now that is a sort of almost a prog sensibility in the sense that you're bringing in studio things. You're not going to do that live. It's not going to have the same effect live. It is purely for the album.
Yeah.
Purely for the recording.
Yeah.
To do that, but obviously we're not talking.
And it's not feeding the song. It's not about the song. It's about let's bring in a different sound to do something different with it, which is good. We like that. And it's like I always say about you don't need two guitarists. Have one guitarist. Have something else. Different instruments, different textures. Make it sound different. Boring. I mean, and this is the argument, isn't it? One 50-minute album would have been absolutely killer it would have been brilliant, better than Appetite for Destruction, and maybe it would have sold more, maybe. Then they can release outtakes and whatever. Is that not the point of the point of this kind of album is loads of stuff? I think they lost the ability to choose, definitely, like I said. Well, I think it's obvious which are the best things. I think there'll be pretty much a consensus which are the best things. I don't think it's like someone else will choose something different.
Okay, would you put The Garden on one of the best?
Garden was one of the ones I thought maybe.
That's one of my favourites, that is. Which I thought, there we are, there's a little bit of, it's doing the Nirvana thing.
Sort of, yeah.
But not rather than the moany teenager thing, it's actually sort of like a quite hippie, sinister edge.
Yes.
Which is actually interesting. Because obviously Nirvana made that kind of thing really dull, really boring.
Yeah, because it was moany teenager. Okay, so I say, genuinely The Garden was one of the ones I left off. I was trying to keep it short, but I don't think anyone would take any of these off. Don't You Cry, one version of it, because there's two on there. Just one of them is fine, I don't care which one. November Rain, Dead Horse, Coma, Civil War, 14 Years, Breakdown, You Could Be Mine, and Live and Let Die is knocking at your back door, knocking on heaven's door, bonus tracks or something, I think. I don't think people might add to that, but I don't think anyone would take anything off that. But then again, maybe you would take November Rain off, but...
Oh, yeah, but
then
that's
again,
probably because I've listened to it to death.
Because you know it, isn't it? But if you're going to sell the album, you definitely put November Rain on, wouldn't you?
I never actually liked You Could Be Mine.
Oh, really?
No, the only interest for it was the fact that it was in Terminator 2. I'd probably add to that. I'm not a big fan of Don't You Cry either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I quite like that.
Although, when you first start listening to it, it's a big track.
Yeah, it's got the guy from Blind Melon on there, isn't it? I think he's singing, doing the high bits. Or maybe Dead Horse or The Garden, maybe not both.
The problem is, I think we ought to do this as a little exercise afterwards. Try and come up with a decent length, let's say a normal album, not 70 minutes.
Yeah.
So what's that,
50 minutes.
Yeah, 50-minute album.
Yeah.
Let's try and put together a 50-minute album out of the tracks on Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 and see...
Yeah.
See
put it in
how-
order, because of course obviously that wasn't in order, that's just some songs you can't have.
I think we'll do that. We'll do that afterwards, and we'll do a Spotify list, and we'll link to the Spotify list.
That's a good idea.
And people can
actually listen and say what they think.
Yeah. Coma is awesome.
Yes, that might be the best thing on there actually.
But you haven't got Estranged on there, and I think
Yeah,
for
that's true.
Guns N' Roses fans,
I
or
probably like that one.
that is quite a big one.
That is a good song.
A lot of people say that is by far the best song on there.
I think I've already said this, that it's the piano stuff, the groove stuff, which wasn't on Appetite. That's the best stuff, and the ballads. That's better than the generic rock stuff, which is the Appetite style. Because of the new drummer makes that stuff really boring. I don't think the songs are as good. I think Axl's grown up and he's gone in a different direction. He's still doing those things, but they're not as good as Civil War, Coma, 14 Years. Coma's ever so Aussie.
It's brilliant. It is a really. I've been singing it all morning.
It's a really good song, and he does sound like. As he's got older, he's sounding more and more like Ozzy. Actually, I think melodically, because he's writing melodies, and actually there's that thing in his voice. He stopped. I'm a cool rock singer. He's going to naturally sound more like Ozzy. That's not a bad thing at all. That's not a criticism. Actually, that's a good thing. Not an old broken Ozzy. I mean, Ozzy being good on albums. It's because it's a different energy, isn't it? They're rich now, very rich now, and they've got too much adulation too quickly because of the time, etc. So there's a appetite to this is very different, and yet it still sounds like Guns N' Roses. Like the difference between Meddle and Wish You Were Here in our reviews. So if you want to watch those reviews, don't. Not really. Don't really pay for them. You'd be mad to do that. And it's that. But that question, does more stuff actually make the album worse? Does it get less eggs because of more material? And that's difficult, isn't it? Because that good stuff is still there, just as good. So in the long term,
Okay. Which songs would you actually take out?
Loads.
Yeah.
What's this?
Probably one, Next Door to Hell.
Yeah, Next Door to Hell,
Dust
and
and
Bones,
Perfect Crime.
You Ain't the First.
Oh.
Most of one, actually, I think.
Bad Obsession's good.
That one was okay.
I like Bad Obsession.
Yeah.
Back off
Bitch. Double Talking Jive, man.
Get the money.
Yeah, Garden is good. Garden of Eden, that's good, that's right.
I don't understand where you've got the Garden and the Garden of Eden. That's just confusing. Why not put the Garden of Eden somewhere else? Or call it something. Just call it Eden.
Yeah. Don't damn me. Bad Apples, Dead Horse is great. Coma's great.
Yeah.
But I think
Big
one is
consensus.
easier because there's so much filler on one.
I always thought one was the better one.
It's supposed to be, isn't it? But
The thing is, like, the one was easier to get through. It's actually Use Your Illusion 2 that I struggle with.
Oh, okay. Civil War is good, 14 Years is good. Yesterday's, I dislike Yesterday's. I remember disliking it at the time. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with it. Get in the Ring is... Knockin' on Heaven's Doors, obviously.
Get in the Ring is kind of ridiculous. It's a punk song, but they can't be punk when they're massively
rich
and
Well, perhaps they can. Perhaps that's kind of a typical punk thing. And it's people like it because he swears and stuff in it. Shotgun Blue is boring. Breakdown is great.
Breakdown.
It's not the Tom Petty song, sadly. Pretty Tied Up, boring.
Actually, I find that I almost wonder if there's a sense of irony in that, because it starts with the pearls of rock and roll.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got like sitars and stuff like that. And you think,
Yeah.
you taking the piss?
I mean, the chorus is quite good, but
Pretty tied up.
Yeah.
It's really quite strange, but yeah.
Locomotive is it's boring. So Fine is boring.
Strange.
Estranged is good.
Good, yeah.
You Can Be Mine I like, but you don't like.
Don't cry.
Don't Cry we've already seen before. My World is
Interesting.
what were they thinking?
You want to step into my world.
Now that there
Psychotic
points to
state
the
of bliss.
the breadth of the album, lots of trying different things. Because obviously that's aged terribly and sounds ridiculous.
I don't know, because on this, it sounds different to how I remember it, so I wonder if this is... Actually, that sounds very similar. I don't know how I remember it.
It's new metal, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's pointing the way. Actually,
Yeah.
I just don't like the way. I think the way's stupid and funny. It's funny, but not in a good way. But it's the last song. It's the last song of the thing like that. So it's not like a big thing at the end. It's the like, well, what about that? Do that then? What? It's to leave you. It's not to leave you with. Oh yeah, that's what the album's like. It's to leave you with. What are you doing? That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And it's awful. Axel's voice is annoying. Let's be honest about this, or certainly at this point, Axel's voice is annoying more so than the first two. I think that suggests there's a problem with Axel's personality. Maybe that's reading too much into it. I mean, end of Don't You Cry. The first Don't You Cry is I mean, Ozzy might do that, but it wouldn't be him doing it. It would be an effect. He's sitting there going into the microphone because I'm so great. There's a moments when I think this is a great song, but I wish someone else was singing. To be honest, and occasionally that is the case. Slash though is awesome. 2 3/4 hours of Slash. Is that how much it is? Yeah, it is, isn't it? 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours of Slash is a lot of Slash, and it all sounds the same because that's what he does. Yeah. Parallels with Load and Reload. They're both 70-minute. They're all 70-minute albums. But it's interesting. Metallica didn't release them on the same day. So it was separate albums. So you could argue Metallica cashed in. I think these are better albums than Load and Reload.
Yeah.
Particularly Load.
Yeah.
But at the same time kind of suffer from similar genericiness, boringness.
The thing is, it's hard because 2 70-minute albums, you are going to get bored.
Yeah.
Unless it's something very, very special, like.
Yeah, there's no way the standards are going to be that high.
No. And it makes it very difficult to judge objectively. Because as I say, Use Your Illusion 1, we took a lot of songs off there. But actually, when I listened to it, it was alright.
Alright, altogether was some rock songs.
Altogether it was alright. It was sort of quite, the energy was up.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's very good. Obviously, they spent a lot of time in the studio. I presume a lot of time in the studio trying to get this right.
Yeah.
If something's dragging a bit, they will put something in there. They'll do some jiggery pokery, or they'll introduce something different, like a spoken bit, just to make it interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a sort of almost like an auteur approach, which is where I'm sort of thinking, well, maybe Axel is something different. Like he is actually
talented.
Yeah, he's got the artistic approach.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Yeah, I think and actually, as time has gone on, that's been confirmed. I think we're listening to this in the context of having listened to the other two the week before and the week before. Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing Appetite for Destruction, the paint peeling off the walls in a club, rocking out, and it wasn't recorded like that at all, but it just has that sound and it's great songs. And those songs on here will never be as good. And part of that is the drummer, the boring drummer, and it's not apparent. I mean, most people don't listen to drums anyway, but that's why this sounds so staid compared to that. It's the drummer. The other guy had drugs problems, so he was inconsistent, but he had all the feel. That was the thing. And the new guy is a reliable timekeeper. Completely boring. And there's a real parallel with Clive Burr and Nico McBrain in Iron Maiden, of course, because Clive Burr did all the way up to Number of the Beast. And then they got Nico McBrain, and obviously Clive Burr has this fantastic feel, a swing, which is so rare. But he was inconsistent, and he kept, there was famously playing gigs, throwing up into a bucket and whatever. And then Nico McBrain has loads of technique. But Nico McBrain, he's a 70s rock drummer, so he's got creative ideas. He's a prog drummer, really, playing in Iron Maiden, whereas Matt Sorum is an 80s drummer, which means he keeps time. You remember we did Tattooed Millionaire, the first Bruce Dickinson album? And one of the things you said, there was a whole instrumental break in the last song, and I remember you saying, well, the rhythm section, I'm not doing anything. Why don't they do, something? And that was the mentality of the time, and they would say, it's the song, man, it's all about the song, they shouldn't be doing anything. Nothing should be happening. It should be just singing with backing. And that's the mentality, and that's boring, and we don't like that.
Correct.
And following from that, is it poodle rock? Is this Guns N' Roses poodle rock?
It's really difficult to, because there is an element of it, it's sort of like bloatware.
Yeah.
It's like massively overblown. And it was right on the cusp when things changed, where things became a lot more pared down, the music was easy to record, and so I think that's the thing with poodle rock. It became obviously very bloated. It was all about crazy hair and
hair
tours and going crazy, man.
Doing the drugs.
But I don't think that, because I don't think it is. Although that shot Slash goes on about, well, one guitarist had one thing in a video, that means I've got to have him go out on a beach and play with a helicopter and stuff like that. That's definitely a poodle rock sort of thing.
Yeah, but that's not the music, is it?
No, that's not the music.
So they had to do all that stuff because of the time, but it doesn't mean the music is that. But then again, if the fact that the songs are good doesn't stop it being poodle rock.
Yeah.
The fact that most poodle rock songs aren't good isn't the point, is it? I suppose, maybe, I don't know. So in a way, they're victims of the time. If they'd been around 10 years earlier, they would have been AC/DC, wouldn't they? Because the 90s was so bad for rock in so many ways, and the last song points the way to that bad for rock. The most fashion-oriented era. Forget what people say about, it was the 80s. The worst, most fashion-oriented, it's about image, it's not about the music, is the 90s. That's when the industry was its biggest, there was the most control from the suits, etc, etc. And I remember them being huge, and then really uncool. Really quickly. It was sudden. There was a sudden change, and it's all meaningless. That doesn't matter now at all, They deserved loads of success because they were good and they wrote good songs. I actually noticed, stylistically, I think you said, there's some progressions and arpeggios that aren't that far from Nirvana. Nirvana is limited to certain things. It has to be cool, so there's a limited what they're allowed to do. But that style is in there. It's the rock music of the time, I think. Mm-hmm. Something that happened naturally. And even, some of it not that different to maybe Black Album, certainly post-Black Album, Metallica. Perfect Crime. Same influence as James Hetfield, I think, not Giles Audley. They're both listening to Kiss and Aerosmith and that kind of thing. And of course what happened after that was they completely blew it, couldn't cope with the fame, did ridiculous long tour, and they were replaced by Metallica. In a sense, you'd expect Guns N' Roses are more commercial, they're going to appeal to more people, but something happened. Maybe they blew it, and that's why Metallica were able to come in and become... Metallica were huge in the 90s. Yeah. And, obviously they're brilliant, although they weren't brilliant in the 90s. So, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? And, Guns N' Roses' image management nonsense is just as stupid as Metallica's heavy image.
Well, they're both... Guns N' Roses became a machine, didn't it?
Mm.
It's sort of... And Metallica is a very similar thing. It's referred to as something else. Metallica is an entity. Yeah, it's not four guys playing music. And Guns N' Roses is a sort of... At this point, it is a very similar thing.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah.
And Axl's... Maybe that's Axl's response to it, is by being controlling, he's keeping... It's about, we're writing songs, it's not that bullshit. Maybe that's his response to that, and that was the problem. And the rest of them thought he was just being a control freak.
Yeah.
Which he probably was.
And they peeled off, didn't they? Eventually it all broke down, and the rest of them peeled off and formed another band and did
Yeah.
Jack shit, basically.
Yeah. Oh, there was Slushy Snake bit, which is quite good. Velvet.
Velvet Revolver. Or
Yeah,
Velvet
which was
Revolver.
really boring. It was really, really generic. Guns N' Roses music. Very meh. And it took years. It was the whole 90s for them to finally leave. Covers album and etc. etc. I was thinking for so long with 3 eggs, and it isn't 3 eggs, 4 eggs.
It's easily 4 eggs, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's 4 eggs with 5 egg songs on there.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah. Now the thing is, Sam said, this is Sam's fault. Blame Sam, right? He said, why don't we do Chinese democracy as well? I thought, okay, why not? But that, and we're going to do it, we're actually, although you're going to see this next week, we were going to review it now. But that means we had to listen to lots of Guns N' Roses. So I never want to hear them again. But you will next week for Chinese democracy.
Ooh.